स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, my dear friends. I am going to make this fifth video on the metaphysics of Upanishadic knowledge of Bhagwan Sri Maharshi Ramana. The topic is self and individuality. I'll just explain what is self and individuality before I start the main topic. See, self and individuality. Individuality is the experiencing self, that is jiva, and this self, as we call self, this is the transcending self, that is our atma. Now, when our atma is veiled by mind, ego, maya, so this we called as individual self or individuality or experiencing self. And devoid of these maya, mind and ego, the pure self, that is the transcendent Atma. But in reality, both are connected to Brahma. Brahma is the fundamental reality, pure existence, and pure consciousness and pure bliss. So both experiencing self and the transcendent self, both are the part of Brahma. So this we have to keep in mind and try to understand what is the experience of Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi when he was replying to the questions put by devotees. Now I start the question answer session. First question. Devotee, does not death dissolve the individuality of a person so that there can be no rebirth? Just as the rivers discharged into the ocean lose their individuality. See, there are subtle impress, subtle sanskaras, what we call them as vasanas. These vasanas, they are the main reason of the arising of thoughts from the Atma. And these arising thoughts constitute mind and ego. And they act as they are veiling the Atma. So our cycle of birth and death is caused by these vasanas or the when astral body, that is mind, ego and all, they are not destroyed, then we undergo the cycle of birth and death. Now what Maharishi replies, just listen. But when the waters evaporate and return as rain on the hills, they once more flow in the form of rivers and fall into the ocean. So also the individualities during sleep lose their separateness and yet return as individuals according to their sanskaras or past tendencies. Even so, it is in death and individuality of the person with sanskaras is not lost. So, as there is water cycle in the nature, water evaporates from the oceans, then it falls into rain form, then there are rivers, and same that water goes back to the sun. Similarly, there is birth of body and there is death of body, this going on. This can be stopped only by destroying the very cause of this death and birth cycle, and that is destroying by ego, mind, and subtle impressions, or we call as vasanas. When mind, ego, and these vasanas are destroyed, there is no more birth and death cycle. So we are liberated. Now, what is it? Next question? How can that be? Devotee is asking. Mercy replies, see how a tree whose branches have been cut grows again. Why it grows? Because roots are still there intact. So long as the roots of the tree remain unimpaired, the tree will continue to grow. Similarly, the sanskaras which have merely sunk into the heart, which have merely sunk into the heart or on death, but have not, I will repeat it. See how a tree whose branches have been cut grows again. So long as the roots of the tree remain unimpaired, the tree will continue to grow. Similarly, the sanskaras which have merely sink into the heart on death, but have not perished for that reason, occasion rebirth at the right time, and that is how jivas are reborn. See, jiva, what is jiva? When our Atma is veiled by ego, mind, maya, and all the organs, prana, and everything that is astral body, so our Atma with astral body, that is known as experiencing self or jiva. See, we are not able to understand these things. We do not really know what is jiva, what is individuality, what is maya, what is ego, what is mind. That is the problem. So we have to understand each and every term simple, you there we should not go to complexities, all wonderful words and all. Very simple. Atma veiled by astral body. Simple. That is Jiva. Atma remains in the body with the help of prana and all. So we call it as Jiva. Now, devotee puts the question, how could the innumerable Jivas and the wide universe whose existence is correlative that of the jivas, sprout from such subtle sanskaras sunk in the heart. Maharshi, just as the big banyan tree sprouts from a tiny seed, so do the jivas and the whole universe with name and form sprout from the subtle sanskaras. These are the vasanas, full of desires. Until unless vasanas and these desires are destroyed, we will continue taking birth, undergoing death, and all this cycle. Now, devotee puts another question. How does individuality emanate from the absolute self and how is its return made possible? Now, individuality, that is jiva, atma, having covering of mind, organs, ego, vasanas, and maya. Absolute self, that is the pure atma or pure brahma. So, what answer Maharshi gives? As a spark proceeds from fire, individuality emanates from the absolute self. What is that spark? Ego. The spark is called the ego. Ego is created by what? Ego is the modification of mind. Mind is created by thoughts, and thoughts are created by vasanas, subtle sanskaras. So this is a simple thing. Just you have to keep in mind. In the case of the ajnani, the ego identifies itself with some object simultaneously with itself because ego cannot remain without object. It cannot remain without such association with objects. This association is due to ajnana, whose destruction is the objective of one's efforts. We undergoes various sadhanas. Our main aim is to destroy these ajnana, that is ignorance. If this tendency to identify itself with objects is destroyed, the ego becomes pure and then it also merges into its source. What is the source of ego? Atma. The false identification of oneself with the body is Deh Atma Buddhi or I am the body idea. This must go before good results can follow. I am the body idea, that is called self I. This is the basic thought. Rest of all other thoughts follow. Devotee, how am I to eradicate it? Maharshi reply, you exist in Susupti. Susupti means sound sleep. Susupti without being associated with the body and the mind. Because during sound sleep, we are not aware of body and mind. But in the other two states, that is the awakening and dreaming state, you are associated with them. If you were one with the body, how could you exist without the body in Susupti? You can separate yourself from what is external to you, but not from that which is one with you. Hence, the ego cannot be one with the body. This must be realized in the waking state. The three states are studied in order to gain the knowledge. Devotee, how can the ego, which is confined to two of the states, endeavor to realize that which comprises all the three states? Maharshi replied, the ego in its purity is experienced in the intervals between two states or between two thoughts. The ego is like the worm which leaves one hold only after it catches another. Its true nature is known when it is out of contact with objects or thoughts. You should realize this interval as the abiding, unchangeable reality, your true being, through the conviction gained by the study of the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. Here, to understand the main point is because ego without an object cannot survive. When there is no object, so ego will be going to merge with the Atma. This is the basic thing here. Devotee, can I not remain in Susupti as long as I like and also be in it at will, just as I am in the waking state? What is the Jnani's experience of these three states? Maharshi replied, Susupti does exist in your waking state also. You are in Susupti even now. That should be consciously entered into and reached in this very waking state. There is no real going in and coming out of it. To be aware of Susupti in Jagrat state is Jagrat Susupti. That means that is the superconscious state of our mind. That means ego is almost merges with the Atma. And this is nothing, and there is no arising of thoughts from the Atma. So this is nothing but this is Samadhi, superconscious state. The Ajnani cannot remain long in Susupti because he is forced by his nature to emerge from it. His ego is not dead and it will rise again and again. But the Jnani crushes the ego at its source. It may seem to emerge at times in his case also if impelled by prarabdha. That is in the case of the Jnani also. For all outward purposes, prarabdha would seem to sustain or keep up the ego as in the case of the Ajnani, but there is this fundamental difference that the Ajnani's ego, when it rises up, really it has subsided except in deep sleep, is quite ignorant of its source. What is the source? Atma. In other words, the Ajnani is not aware of his Susupti in his dream and waking states in the case of the Jnani. See, when you are awake and you are in the Susupti, that is Samadhi. On the contrary, the rise or existence of the ego is only apparent and he enjoys his unbroken transcendental experience in spite of such apparent rise or existence of the ego, keeping his attention lakshya always on the source. Source is Atma. This ego is harmless. Why it is harmless? Because it is going towards the Atma. It is merely like the skeleton of burnt rope because it is destroyed. Why it is destroyed? Because it has merged with the Atma. Though with a form it is useless to tie up anything. By constantly keeping one's attention on the source, the ego is dissolved in that source like a salt dole in the sea. Like, simple thing. Devotee, what is the significance of the crucifixion? Very good question. Maharshi, the body is the cross. Jesus, the Son of Man, is the ego, or I am the body idea. When the Son of Man is crucified on the cross, the ego perishes and what survives is the absolute being. Absolute being is what? Atma. It is the resurrection of the glorious self of the Christ, the Son of God. De- Devotee. But how is crucifixion justified? Is not killing a terrible crime? Mercy replies, everyone is committing suicide. The eternal, blissful, natural state has been smothered by this ignorant life. In this way, the present life is due to the killing of the eternal positive existence. Is it not really a case of suicide? So why worry about killing, etc.? Devotee. Sri Ramakrishna says that Nirvikalpa Samadhi cannot last longer than 21 days if persisted in. The person dies. Is this a fact? But Maharishi replies, when Prarabdha is exhausted, the ego is completely dissolved without leaving any trace behind. This is the final liberation, nirvana. Unless prarabdha is exhausted, the ego will rise up as it may appear to do in the case of Jivan Muktas. Jivan Mukta means while still alive, while his Atma is in the body and he is liberated, he is called a Jivan Mukta. Liberated when still in Atma in the body. That is Jivan Mukta. So, dear friends, this is a very, very good, we have to keep in mind the basic, ideas. Uh, We feel no as if we are in all sorts of complexities. We are some sort of whirl of ideas, complex ideas. No, we have to go one by one, slowly, simple language, understand each thing. It will be clear. And when you understand, the things become easy. So, dear friend, thank you for patience. You have watched this video. Please like, comment, and share the video and subscribe my channel. Thank you. I will carry on giving you these very useful videos. Thank you, my dear. Namaste. Namaste.